Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So this is my final video in my end of the year series. So in case you've missed the other ones, I have all of the books that I DNF'd in 2024, my most surprising reads of 2024, my most disappointing and worst books of 2024. So if you have missed any of those, I will have those videos linked down below. At this point, they should be part of a playlist, but I'll have those linked down below in case you guys want to check those out. But today, we are talking about my best books of the year. I have 6 books to talk about, which is the most that I've had to talk about since I've started my channel. So this is in no particular order. I'm just gonna pick them up as I see them. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the first book that I have, and I unfortunately do not have a physical copy. I just haven't picked one up yet. I read this as an ARC from NetGalley. That is Brooklyn by Tracy Brown. So in this one, we are following our main character, Brooklyn. And at the start of the story, she's like in her late teens, I believe. And Brooklyn comes from a really religious family. So her father is a pastor of a really big church. Her mother, of course, is like the first lady. She has a older brother, a younger sister, and so she's kind of like been sheltered for her whole life, but of course she has done some mischievous things here and there. There was a situation that happened that caused Brooklyn to leave her home very young while she was, in her in her late teens. And so she decides that she's going to live on her own. She moves away from home. She gets involved with these other people, and she's basically trying to survive out in New York City. I loved this story. It was such a nostalgic read for me because it reminds me of the things that I was reading when I was younger that I probably had no business reading. If you guys read The Coldest Winter Ever or Fly Girl, this book had those same vibes, and I just ate it up. I think I read it in maybe 2 or 3 sittings. I'm thinking maybe 2 sittings. I really liked the character of Brooklyn, even though there were moments where you don't know if you want to root for this girl or if you want to hate this girl. You just do not know. Her family, her mother in particular, made my eyeball itch. That was a terrible woman, and it just kind of gives you some insight into why Brooklyn is the way that she is. I thought that the situation that caused her to leave home was so heartbreaking, and then just watching her and the decisions that she makes, the things that she has to do while she's living on her own, trying to make it by herself. I thought that was all interesting, and I really did like the way that this story ended. I did not realize this until after I finished this book, but this author, Tracy Brown, has unfortunately passed away, and she had passed away while she was writing this book, and someone else had to finish it for her. I don't think a lot of other people enjoy this book as much as I did, and I have seen a couple of reviews where they said that they could tell that someone else had finished the book. I cannot tell. It all seemed like it came from Tracy Brown herself. But I really, really enjoyed this story. It just took me back down memory lane. And I am definitely going to pick up more books from Tracy Brown. The next book that we have here, and I'm just gonna get it out of the way, is The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. I am late to the Freida McFadden hype train. This is the first book that I read from her. Obviously, I read it this year, and I ate this story up. This is another one where I read it in a sitting or two. I think it was 2 sittings. And in this one, we're following this struggling maid, Millie, and she is down on her luck. She's living in her car, and she's just looking for her next job. She ends up getting hired by this family. They're wealthy, and they take her in, and as a part of her agreement to work with them, she has to actually stay there. And so They tell her that she's going to be staying in the attic, which she's not really thrilled about, but it's better than staying in her car. And so the weird thing that she realizes when she stays up there is like, she can't lock the room from the inside. Like, you can only lock the door from the outside. So those were like some few alarm bells that she obviously chose to ignore. As she's working for this family, she starts to notice that something is not right, and the story kind of takes off from there. I liked the things that happened in the story. I liked the reveals that we slowly got. I like how it was like slowly being revealed to us throughout the story, and it wasn't like we got all this information at once. I liked just how the story was written. I liked how this ended. I did not see any of these twists coming. I did not know if I was gonna like it as much as everybody else seemed to like it, but I absolutely loved it. Hence, it's one of my favorite books of the year. The next book that I have here is The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekulak. I do not know if I'm saying that right. It does not sound right coming out of my mouth, but sorry if I butchered that. But this is the same author that wrote Hidden Pictures last year or the year before. I enjoyed Hidden Pictures, but I in no way enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed this one. This for me is like, you know, when you read a book at like the right time and it just hits you. Like, had I read this later, I'm not sure if I would have liked it as much. I listened to this on audio, and I would highly suggest listening to this on audio, but I'll explain why in a second. So in this one, we are following this father, Frank, and he's a bit estranged from his daughter. They haven't spoken in like 3 years, but out of the blue, she reaches out to him and invites him to her wedding, to this really wealthy guy that came from this really wealthy family. And this is kind of like a red flag to Frank, and he's like hesitant, but he wants to get to know obviously who his daughter is marrying. And so she invites him to like the weekend festivities at like their cottages that like the guests can stay in on this family's property. And Frank starts to learn some things about this family. Specifically, the woman that his daughter's fiance had before, that woman went missing. And so Frank starts to look into that, and he starts to realize that something is not right with this family. I listened to this on audio, and the reason why I feel like the audio really works better for this one is because you can really feel like how anxious and all over the place Frank is with his thoughts. I don't think this would have hit the same if I did not listen to this on audio, but I think Frank was a great character. I really felt how anxious he was, and I agreed because something just did not sit well, and it seems like he was the only one that was concerned about what was going on. Everyone else was just, you know, excited for the wedding weekend. They were impressed by how lavish everything was, but Frank was not having it. Also, I liked his banter with like this little girl. So his sister decides that she wants to tag along, well, not wants to tag along for the wedding because it's her niece is getting married, but she goes with him to the wedding, and she likes to foster kids. And so right now she has a foster daughter that she decides to bring, and Frank is not happy. He is not feeling this little girl. He finds out that she has lice, which like disgust him. He just, listen, he is not feeling this little girl, but the banter between them is so funny. I liked where the story went. There were a couple parts in here that I kind of chuckled at. I do think the end of it, like the last like third, was a little slower. And I think a lot of people said that they didn't like the end, but I did like it, even though it did slow down. And I just like the overall like ending and where this left off. I was very satisfied with this. I really enjoyed this, and I will definitely be reading whatever this author puts out next. The next one that I have is She Really Going Out With Him by Sophie Cousins. This is a adult romance. I recently read this as a arc from NetGalley, and I loved it so much that I went ahead and got a physical copy once I saw that it was an option for a book of the month pick. So in this one, we are following our main character, Anna, and she is trying to rebuild her life after a divorce. Now it's just her and her two younger kids. She is currently working as a journalist, but she finds out that her job might be in jeopardy because the company, I believe, might be getting sold. In order to keep her job, she and her boss have come up with this idea that she is going to start writing stories about these dates that she's going on that her kids pick out for her. And so while that's happening, there is a romance that blossoms between her and someone else that is completely unexpected. And the story just kind of takes off from there. This is my third book from Sophie Cousins. One of her other books I gave 4 stars. It was called The Good Part, and then I read a romance that I cannot think of the name, but I gave that one 5 stars. And so now I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the dates that Anna went on and how she involved her children and how they really got into it with trying to pick out the best fit for their mother. She went on this really funny fishing date that didn't end well for the guy. She ended up dating this douchey actor. She decided that she was gonna go on a date with this really younger guy, and they went to a house party and things happened. So I really thought that her dates were really interesting. Loved the romance that blossoms between her and this other character. It was definitely slow burn. It started off as enemies to lovers, and I just loved where it went, and I actually really liked that person as a character as well. And then I just really resonated with Anna as a character. One, because she's older. I love reading romance stories about characters that are not in their 20s, but she's like in her mid to late 30s. I liked just watching her rebuild her life after her divorce, her finding herself again, her making new friendships. I liked watching her and her sister's relationship because Anna is the older sister, and she has always been the one that has been there for her younger sister. And now she's watching her younger sister have the life that Anna thought that she would have for herself. Her younger sister is now married and is pregnant and is building her own family. And Anna is kind of watching that. She's happy for her sister, but she's also like, you know, that's where I wish I was. And so Anna has found herself relying on her younger sister. And I don't know, I love that dynamic. I love anything that has to do with sisters. And so I loved everything about this. The characters, the romance, the dates, everything. If you have not picked this up, I would highly recommend this. The next book that I have here is Margo's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe. So this is a adult fiction, and we're just following Margo. And Margo is going through some things. So she's younger. She is living on her own with like 4 roommates. She's not doing the best financially, but then she finds out that she's pregnant. Not only is she pregnant, but she's pregnant by her college English professor. So that's a whole thing within itself. So of course, as she decides that she is going to keep this child, she at one point gets fired from her job. This relationship with her professor doesn't work out because ding ding, he's married. And so he decides that he wants absolutely nothing to do with Margo or the baby. And now she is just trying to figure out how she's going to take care of this baby with no income. She finally finds herself making money, but she's making that money through OnlyFans. And so that is a whole thing within itself. While Margo's going through all this, she doesn't have like the best relationship with her mother, and her father has been like in and out of her life because he has a whole nother family, but he comes upon hard times and he's struggling with some things, and he lives with Margo. And so we also watch how their relationship evolves. This was great. This just had a lot of stuff going on. We're watching someone enter into motherhood at not the best point in her life. We're watching her as she's trying to make these decisions that now she has to think about a child. We're watching her as she is embarking on a career that not a lot of people really know about in a career with OnlyFans that people judge you for. And we also see her and like her family dynamics between her mother and her father. And then at some point, you know, she has to make amends with this guy that she had a baby with. So it's a lot going on. And I enjoyed it. There were definitely some humorous moments in here. I liked the way that the story was told. I liked Margo as a character. I just really enjoyed this story. This does not look like anything that I would honestly pick up, but this was just like one of those things where I just wanted to try something different, and it did not disappoint. And I definitely want to read something else from this author, and I would highly recommend this story. So the last book that I have to talk about, and obviously one of the best books of the year, this is The Ascent by Adam Plantinga. I had not heard anything about this book, but I saw two of my favorite YouTubers talk about this. So Nakia over at Nakia's Hideaway and Venus from A Venus Escapes to Read, they both raved about this book, and I would be shocked if it does not land in their top books of the year. But I picked this up because of them. I will have both of their channels linked down below. You guys should definitely check them out. But because of them, I found this book and I fell in love with this story. So in this one, we are following this detective, Kurt, and he's like an ex-cop, actually. He's an ex-cop. And there's a situation that happens. He kind of got into a scuffle, which lands him in prison. Okay, so we're following him. Then we're following this other character. She is the daughter of the governor of where this prison is located. And she's in the middle of like working on her master's degree, I think. And so as a part of that, she has to tour this prison. So Kurt and this girl are in this prison at the same time. While they're at this prison, the security systems fail. And so because of that, all of like the locks and stuff on the prison cells are disabled. And these people now have to fight for their life. So this ex-cop Kurt and this girl and then some other employees kind of band together because now they need to get to the roof in order to have cell service. But what you learn is that every floor of this prison, the higher you go up, the worse the criminals are, the worse their offenses are. So you have like a floor where it's like these criminals aren't that bad, and then you go up another floor and all of these prisoners are part of gangs, and then you go up another floor and these are prisoners that are considered like mentally insane. And so the higher up they go, the worse it is. And these people are trying to fight for their life. This is really graphic. There is a lot of death. There's a lot of murders. If that's not your thing, this probably won't work for you, but it's really graphic and it's really intense. It's really action-packed. And this book is something that is going to leave you on the edge of your seat. That is something, all of the action and whatnot, that's something that I really enjoyed. But I also really enjoyed how it like subtly talked about the prison system and how it was just mentioning that the guards and stuff, there are not enough guards in some of these prisons for the amount of prisoners that are being held there. So that's an issue. A lot of these like security measures aren't up to par in the first place before this even happened. So it definitely talks about the issues within the prison system. But I don't know. I really enjoyed this. This did not disappoint. I do not hear enough people talking about this. And I found out from Venus that this author has another book coming out next year that I am highly anticipating. But if this sounds like your thing, if you're looking for something that you can read really quickly that has a lot of action, then this is definitely going to be for you. But this was a book that I actually had a really good time with. So that is all that I have for you guys. These were my favorite books of 2024. Please let me know your thoughts down below. If I have convinced you to pick up any of these reads, if you have read these, please let me know your thoughts. Please let me know what your favorite books were of 2024. And again, I'll have my other videos that are part of this series linked down below in case you guys are interested. But I will see you guys next time. Bye.